Let's talk about roasting whole spices. I talk about it a lot online and in my classes, and I just want to repeat how simple and easy it is to not only roast your spices but grind them down yourself. Why would you want to do that? For a couple different reasons. You want to give your dish an extra couple different layers of flavor, and it's such a simple way to do that. You also want to, and I always joke around about it, you want to get double duty out of your spices. This is a terrific way to get more out of the spices you already have. So if you have cumin seeds, you have coriander seeds that you've purchased, and you think you're not going to be able to use them, this is just a great way to get another layer of flavor out of the spices that are already sitting most likely in your pantry. So a couple things you want to remember is you want to roast your spices in a dry pan that has no oil and no water or moisture in it, kind of like the idea of roasting pine nuts. You know how you put it in a pan, put them in a pan, they release that internal oil and they start to brown a little bit. That's really the process, and that's the amount of time that you're going to need to get this amazing, delicious flavor layering in your food. Come on, let's go. I'm going to show you how to do it. Here we go. We are at my stove top, and in this small pan I have cumin seed and I have coriander seed. I just turned on the stove, so we're going to start from scratch, and I'm going to show you how simple and easy it is to do this. The key is you do not want to move away from your stove. I have tried doing that so many times because I like to multitask. But this is a time when you just want to get a little zen and you want to just stay right here in one spot, because once you hit that moment when your spices do roast, it is super fast. It will go that next step very quickly, and you don't want to burn anything, because once you take your spices over that next level and they burn, then there's very little that you can actually do to salvage them. So here we go. We've got a medium-high heat and no oil, no water in this pan. Because I'm touching it with my fingertips, my hands are incredibly clean. I wash them all the time. You can touch your pan and not burn yourself, but you could use a spatula as well. And I always want to, as my seeds start to warm up, I'm going to want to shake my pan as much as possible. We'll give it a couple seconds and we can just hang out here and we can see the process develop and start, and you can kind of hear it. We're not quite there yet. Trust me though, when it starts to happen, it will happen super fast. And again, I've got coriander seed, it's a whole seed, and I've got cumin seed. It's going into a recipe where I want that lemon profile of the coriander, and I want that earthiness of the cumin seed as well. I can now smell that aroma coming off my coriander seed. It's really citrusy and just so delicious. That means that we're starting to get to a point where it's going to start to sizzle and start to roast. Could you do this in the oven? A lot of folks ask me. You indeed could. But it's super easy and simple. Do it right here on the stovetop. Again, with a smaller pan, a pan that's heavier, a pan that has no oil, no water in it. So if you take a look at the cumin seed, you're going to see how they're slowly toasting and browning. And that's what we want. We're seeing a little bit of that on the coriander seed as well. And look, they're starting to kind of move. I saw a little bit of movement. They're going to start to just sputter and move around a tiny bit as they release that beautiful, beautiful, beautiful fragrance as well as the essential oils. And you're going to see a little bit of steam coming off. See that? We can capture that as well. And that's how you know you're getting closer to the point where you're going to have to stop and take your pan off the stove. And again, this is such a great way to get a different taste profile out of a spice you've already purchased. So I always recommend that folks not get overwhelmed with the idea of buying spices, because I know it's a little bit of an investment, but there's different ways that you can get the most out of whatever you're purchasing. There's no reason why a spice has to sit there and you not use it. And look at this. We're there. It's toasty. You can kind of hear it. It's kind of, see, a little tiny bit of movement as you're seeing the roasting. Very little. It's very subtle. Oops. And that's absolutely all you want. So we've got it now over here where there's no heat. And see that steam coming off? That is your steam coming off of your spices. That is being released. It needs to cool down. They need to cool down. And what I typically like to do is I like to grab a plate, pour them onto the plate, and let them cool for about 10 to 15 minutes. Because if you grind them right away, that steam and that water release will mean that they get a little clumpy in your spice grinder. I usually use a coffee grinder that is reserved for spices. So if you really don't want that, it's not too bad. It's just a little inconvenient. It doesn't do anything for the taste. You want to just let them cool for about 10-15 minutes on a plate, ideally. All right, so let's go ahead and we're going to grind these up. I'm going to show you how easy it is to make your own spice blends. My spices cooled on a plate, as I told you I'd like to have them do before I grind them down. They're going to go into my mortar and pestle. Here we go. Again, just 2 teaspoons each of cumin seed and coriander seed. And now is the time to get out a little bit of aggression. What's upsetting you today? Great way. Just get it all out without doing any harm. Right? I really like taking this step, and in my classes, I do a lot of library demos across Illinois, and I like to have this process done by someone in the audience, because they really get to see, one, how simple and easy it is, really experience it, and then also they start to smell the aroma. I wish this was smell-o-vision. You smell this aroma coming off this mortar and pestle. It is intoxicating. It is just so amazing. And I have to say too that it was the reason why I started my own spice company at Indiana's Apple Pie, because I learned that the large spice companies, actually most all spice companies that sell Indian spices, do not take the time or energy to dry roast their spices first. And that's not right. Most blends, most Indian blends require a level of this process. Not all, but most. It's just too expensive, and that's why we do that at Indiana's Apple Pie for you. You can check out my stuff on my website, indianasapplepie.com. There we go. And also you can find out where we're sold. We're in several states now in the Midwest, and we would love for you to check out our blends. There you go. Let's go ahead and we missed one little cumin seed. Don't want to lose any of that. This is so beautiful, so amazing, and so easy to do. And that's all there is to it. So there you have it. Pretty easy, right? You can do that. I know you've got it in you to dry roast and grind your own spices. Just one little thing to add. Never let moisture get into your spices. Even when you've got a mortar and pestle that you're working with, if you're working with a spice grinder and you want to wash it out, dry it really, really well. Let it sit for a minute or two to really get super dry. Moisture is the one way that you can ruin your spices. All right, so thanks for watching. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, Indian as Apple Pie, and check out new and fresh and delicious recipes on my website, indianasapplepie.com.